What up, everybody? Crimson Rosso here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the atelier remake, everyone. If you're wondering what the intro and that genuinely awful accent were for, I was trying to emulate my good friend Mad Kaiser, as he's kind of the reason I'm reviewing this game. See, a couple weeks back, I was just sitting around streaming Nayuta on my Twitch, Crimson Next Stage, and he then just showed up and gifted me the game. And I agreed to stream and then review it, solely because I knew he made it a while back, and he had been interested in what my opinions were on it. So yeah, after playing it, I gotta say, it was a lot of fun. But what exactly made this whole experience so charming for me? Well, let's get into that, shall we? Welcome to my review of Atelier, a cozy as hell JRPG. Alright, enough beating around the bush. Let me get into my first bit of praise for this game. In that Atelier looks absolutely adorable as hell. Now, the Mary remake utilizes a 3D chibi style in comparison to the original's more 2D style. And while I do admit, I do think it would have been interesting to see this game's world in a 2D HD style, I personally think the 3D chibi works as a good substitute, as its more cutesy design lends itself very well to the more cozy, innocent world of Atelier. The models, and especially all of the areas where you explore to find materials, lend themselves incredibly strong to this kind of style. My two personal favorite areas would probably be Mount Wieland, I never learned how to pronounce it, and of course Strudel Waterfall. Both look great, are fun to explore for the limited areas you get, and these are also the areas where you get to fight some of the game's bosses, which ended up making them a lot more memorable to me, as I am a bit of a combat fan. What can I say? I like killing monsters. It gives me purpose in this pitiful life of mine. And since we're on the topic of bosses, how about we get into the gameplay of Mary now? The gameplay is broken down into 3 different parts: combat, alchemy/exploration, and doing quests. Let's start off with combat. Now, my only experience with Atelier games up until this point was with the Rise trilogy, which I had heard was a complete change from the franchise's staple turn-based combat. And as a big fan of turn-based combat, I admit, I was interested in seeing how it was handled, and Mary does not disappoint on that front in the slightest. The combat is fast, smooth, and very well balanced, where it never really feels like it's unfair. It also comes with a few interesting ideas that make it more interesting. For one, the party system. Now, unlike other RPGs where you get a set party as you progress throughout the game, Mary instead changes this up by having you hire adventurers to join you on your expeditions, each coming with a set fee and skill set. There are even party members you can unlock and hire by doing certain side quests, like the Fur Himo quest, for example, where you need to make living rope to catch a thief, only to learn it was just some kid named Natalie causing some trouble, and once she's reprimanded, she becomes an adventurer you can hire. And you can even learn about her past through the unlockable friendship events, which will become available the more time you spend with said character. And these events can range from helping characters with their own issues to just watching Moo win an eating contest. A bunch of fun little side things that make the characters feel more like genuine people than just randos you end up hiring. And that pretty much covers the basis of combat. So let's get to the alchemy and exploration parts of gameplay. Now, Altair games have a heavy emphasis on you going out into the game's world to hunt down ingredients to create items using alchemy. And that premise is still very much there in Mary, as a large part of the gameplay loop is heading to select areas to find the materials you need to create an item to use later on, either through a quest or in battle. You can also buy items from the Academy shop to make certain creations easier to make. And every time you create something, you obtain EXP as a bonus. But you can't just make items as much as you want, as the more you make items, the more your fatigue will build up. And if your fatigue starts to get too high, you will start messing up alchemy recipes that will cost you ingredients and force you out into the world again, costing you time off your precious schedule, which you will need for something we will get to later, actually. For now, though, let us talk about the final gameplay aspect, and that's the quests. Now, I've brought up things like hiring adventurers to help or buying items from the Academy store, but to do those things, you need money. And battles don't really give you that. So how do you get money in this game? By doing quests, of course. Quests are mostly obtained by going to Sky Tavern and choosing the one you want to do, which will mainly have you hunting for materials or crafting a set amount of items. The more valuable the material or how difficult it is to make will determine how much money and reputation you will earn. However, it isn't as cut and dry as it sounds, as each quest comes with a time limit attached that you have to follow. And if you don't finish it in time, it becomes overdue, and completing the quest at that point will earn you far less. take even longer to finish, and the quest is failed and you get nothing out of it. So make sure you're planning the days out effectively. Of course, that's not the only way to get quests, as people you interact with around town and even party members you have met and hired will come to you for requests to get them certain items. I like this. It's a fun little quest system that constantly keeps you on your toes. And that's pretty much it for gameplay. So now let's move on to the story and characters. The story is honestly pretty simplistic. Mari is a failing student in her town's academy, and in order to straighten her out, Professor Ingrid decides to give her a special test. She places Mary in charge of an atelier for 5 years, and if Mary can prove herself in that amount of time, she will let her graduate. And, well, that's pretty much it for the story. I did say it was simplistic after all. And there's nothing wrong with a simple story if gameplay, graphics, and characters do a good enough job of picking up the slack. Well, I've already talked about the first two, so what about the characters? Well, I'm happy to announce that they are all pretty good. I don't think any of them were captivating enough to become one of my favorite characters ever, sure. I will admit that they were entertaining enough to where I never got bored seeing them on screen. Thankfully, that's because Mary is a good protagonist for them to bounce off to. She's funny, she's charming, and her more naive and innocent nature helped her balance out the party members incredibly well. And last but certainly not least, the music is just great. Pretty much every track in this game is just a vibe to listen to whenever you're trying to relax. I recommend pulling out the soundtrack if you want to vibe while writing something or want to take a nap. It's very chill. And that is it from the pros, so I think it's time we got into cons now. Now, for the cons, this part's a little hard to do. Atelier Mary is one of those games where it's rather difficult to find any major flaws with it. Not because it's some sort of god-level masterpiece on par with the likes of something like, I don't know, Elden Ring or DMC5. More like it was a game with a set scope and focus. It went out to just be a simple, fun game that was a good time all around. And it did that quite well. But I also don't think that means that the game was flawless, as there were some issues I ended up having with it. And pretty much all of my complaints are part of the gameplay. For one, I wasn't really a fan of how they handled Mary's special move, the Thunderbolt attack. See, at one point in the game, you can unlock a weapon called the Cosmic Staff by completing a quest about making a hair growth potion for the blacksmith in town. And once it's completed, he hands you said staff and gives you access to the Thunderbolt spell. Pretty cool, right? Well, guess what? You can only use Thunderbolt when you have the staff on. So, if you want to get another weapon you want to equip, say goodbye to that spell. You just worked your ass off to unlock. Even if you're playing on unlimited mode, that's still a pretty decent chunk of time and resources out the window for a special ability you lose as soon as you equip a new weapon. After that, I just didn't really equip many new weapons solely due to the fact that I just didn't want to get rid of Thunderbolts. I really do think that Thunderbolt should have just been an ability you got through natural progression. And I kind of feel like it was supposed to, as Mary does get an upgrade for it called Thunderbolt Plus around level 25 or so. So it's just kind of weird it wasn't just a set skill you had. But it wasn't as jarring as some of the Altair time punishments. Now, for this one, I'm going to have to ask you guys to take this one with a little bit of a grain of salt, as this could just be me simply being new to the franchise, and I may need a few more games under my belt that utilize the time limit before it fully clicks. But sometimes, I felt like these time limit punishments were kind of unfair. Like, did I really need to lose an entire day just because I wanted to go make items I got a request for, or because I forgot to save and now a whole day was lost? Again, this may be me just thinking it's annoying due to the fact that I have to play more of these, but I'll tell you one thing that won't stop being annoying, and that was those fuck-ass mini-games. These were not it, Gust. Not it at all. I love the idea of minigames as sort of a form of content to shake up the gameplay so it isn't just go do gameplay and that's it. That made absolutely no sense, but I'm pretty sure you get what I mean. But pretty much all of them stopped being entertaining after a single play. The absolute worst for me was the Poonie smashing minigame. Holy god, that sounds so weird if I say that out loud. Well, anyways, what's the Poonie smashing minigame? Well, you kill Poonies with a hammer to earn extra money. It's not a bad idea for a minigame, sure, but it goes on for so long, it moves so slowly that I get bored like a minute in. It sucks because I really wanted to like them, but these minigames were not handled very well. Other than that, I don't really have any other complaints, so how about we just move on to my final thoughts. Altair Mary was a pretty fun time. It It wasn't some god-tier, dick-hardening experience or something like that, but it was a fun, cozy time that is pretty easy to recommend to people if they're looking for a good day. That's why my final rating for this game is a cozy as hell 7.5 out of 10. And that is the end of the video. If you liked what you saw here, do me a favor and like and sub down below for some more RPG content. And leave a comment down below if you're up for a chat or want to help me in the algorithm a bit. Thank you once again to my good bud Matt Kaiser for gifting me this game. I'm going to leave his channel link in the pinned comment below if you want to go check him out. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time for more quality RPG content.